Hello, it's Eric here, and then I'm sitting in a beach somewhere in an island, and I wish I could say that this is a remote island, but unfortunately this is the exact opposite of a remote island. This island is actually chock-a-block full of tourists and vacationers. And then, where I'm at now is actually very much related to the topic we're going to discuss today, which is subprime Airbnb. And it's very similar to the, the subprime mortgage crisis in 2008. Yeah. So I'm sure you remember that, in 2008, the catalyst, for the global financial crisis was the subprime mortgage. Yeah. And it seems that this kind of subprime mortgage is, cropping up, again and again and again. And now it seems that it's cropping up in the Airbnb market. And so what happens is, where I am at now is a place where there are lots of, seaside condominiums, and then the seaside condominiums are actually Airbnb properties. Yeah, so the vacationers come here, especially during this time of year, summertime, and the vacationers are coming to take advantage of the seaside Airbnb properties, and then they stay here for a week or two, and then they pay rentals. Yeah. And then, so then you get income for the Airbnb properties, yeah. And it turns out that actually many of these Airbnb properties are mortgages from the banks. And then, so what happens is in a regular year, if you invest in a Airbnb property, then the rental incomes will be enough to cover the mortgage payment, yeah. So that's fine and dandy. Everything is a hunky-dory, yeah. But unfortunately, in an economic recession, then you don't have enough vacationers, then that means you don't have enough rental payments to cover the mortgage payments, yeah. And so therefore, occasionally the the Airbnb property will go into delinquency, yeah. Then that means the mortgage will go into default, and then and that's no good, yeah. That's no good for the bank, yeah. And so therefore the bank, if the bank doesn't want to take on this risk, they may want to pass this risk on to the investors, So what the bank does is, they will package up all these Airbnb mortgages into some kind of security and sell the security to the investors, And then, but the trouble is, in a severe economic recession, then many of these Airbnb mortgages will default. And then, if too many of these Airbnb mortgages default, then the banks will have no choice but to foreclose these Airbnb properties. Yeah, like I'm seeing some of the seaside condominiums here are actually being foreclosed. Yeah, and So then, if this kind of, mortgage-backed securities, in this case it's Airbnb mortgage-backed securities, if these mortgage-backed securities go into default, then many people will suffer, And so first of all, the investors are the first one to bear the brunt, because they invest money in this kind of Airbnb mortgage-backed securities. And then if these mortgages go into default, then the investors will lose money, yeah, so they are the first group who will suffer. And then the second group of people who will suffer is, of course, the local community where the Airbnb properties are located. Yeah, because if too many of these Airbnb properties go into default, then the banks will have no choice but to foreclose the properties. That means that typically the banks will sell these properties at a steep discount. Yeah, and then so therefore. The Airbnb property will be closed, and then so therefore the tourists will not come here anymore, and then so the local businesses will not do any business. Yeah, so the local community where the Airbnb properties are located, the local community will definitely suffer. Yeah, and then of course the final group of people who will also suffer is the tourists. Because if the Airbnb properties are foreclosed, that means they are not available on the Airbnb register anymore. Yeah. So therefore, even if the economy goes back to regular gear, and then the vacationers are spending money again, but they won't be spending money in this particular location because the Airbnb properties have been foreclosed, and so therefore you lose the tourists. So the tourists also suffer because they have less choices. and then the local community will suffer because they are not doing as much business, and then of course the investors will also suffer because they lose money on the investment in these Airbnb properties. Yeah, and so in a way, this kind of subprime Airbnb mortgages are reminiscent of the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008. Yeah. It's not gone on to the same magnitude of the global financial crisis yet. I hope, but who knows? And if the banks keep on lending money to these marginal Airbnb properties, then something will happen. Yeah, like the graph here says, there's kind of an explosion. Yeah, explosion in the subprime Airbnb mortgage market. Yeah. I certainly hope that it doesn't happen. Yeah, because if it happens, then I cannot come back here anymore. And all right, so I'll hopefully see you in a more optimistic video next time. All right, see you then. Bye.